It is the biggest one anywhere. This is Evergreen Goodwill's flagship store in Seattle, and it is the biggest Goodwill complex in the entire world. A good chunk of that is this retail space that has been here for 70 years. I almost never come out empty-handed from this place. We're going to see what they've got today. It's changed a lot over the years. There's a lot of clothing and accessories up front now. There used to be a specialty boutique that was all just antiques and vintage, but I think that they've just folded that into the rest of the store because there's just so much to cram in here. On top of the clothing racks are a whole bunch of displays. Now, most of the stuff in them seems to be newish, but I always take a look anyway, just in case. Those old high-top Nikes might be something. I don't really know that line of shoes so much. There's certain logos and older pieces I would recognize, but I am not specifically a clothing merchant. I definitely look at scarves and things though, sports related. These are a bunch of Sounders scarves. They are in the playoffs this year. Oh yes, and the Reign, the women's soccer team. They do a lot of different versions of these. If you see the old stuff from the 70s, that is definitely collectible. My biggest scores have generally been back here. I knew someone who found a Roycroft copper piece that was worth $500 in the 99-cent bin. So we definitely are going to take some time here. Skagit County is north of here. A couple of glasses from their golf clubs. These are newer cocktail recipe glasses. Some Funko Pops that have just come out. Tony Stark, Mad-Eyed Moody, The Flash. Ooh, there's a Fenton vase. And this one is $29.99, not a bargain. Now, they don't price everything high here. I definitely find things that are inexpensive sometimes. This looks like a nice older teapot, Lucerne. This is a late 19th century Staffordshire piece, but a little bit damaged at the handle. Behind it is this set. This is German. I've had some of the cups and saucers in the harvest pattern by this particular maker in Germany. And they have a whole set there for $25. That's not a bad price. These are Lenox, and this is the old mark of Lenox Rose, one of their more popular patterns. This is going to date before 1953 because it has the blue mark. Up here, whole butterfly. They did a couple of different treatments on this. This is the one with the gold, which was a little fancier at the time. Okay, they've got $15. Is that for the whole set? Or is that for just the one piece? It's a little hard to tell. This is priced individually, and that's going to be too much for me. One thing that may be a concern with them having merged the collectibles into the rest of the merchandise is they may have raised the prices on some of the other merchandise. I guess we're going to find out. Made in Brazil, but this is an older Brazilian piece. But again, $35. I'm not seeing great bargains so far. Sterling did a very similar shape to Hull and was also based in Ohio. A little bit of Pyrex. This goes with the false graph patterns. This is the 70s pattern, but again, $20 each. There's just not really any room. So I'm going to move along and see what else we can find. This is a cute little picture here. This is by the same company that did Blenko glass. This is West Virginia Glass Company. They did these frosted satin bottoms, sometimes with decoration in the 1940s. This one is $5.99. That piece might be worth buying because it's cute and a great shape. Dutch shoes galore. Some Lagerberger baskets. One of these Asian dolls. We see a lot of these Japanese dolls in this part of the country because a lot of people brought them over as gifts when they were stationed in Japan in the 1960s. Stone cold air. Here's some pink brass. I'm a fan of that. I like the peacock, but $20 again. Not a lot of bargains here yet. This piece of glass is cute in penguin form, but not old. You can see the hole in the bottom. That's a hallmark of newer glass. This looks like somebody's first attempt at studio glass making. I'm sure they got better with time. This looks like it might be 1980s, and it definitely has some wear, quite a bit of wear actually. But again, $15. There's just not a lot of room in some of these prices. This is a cool looking thing based on 1960s and 70s design, and this one I don't think has that age because of the way it's made in the middle there with the two bands. This is an old piece of Blue Bridge in the apple pattern. from the 1930s or 40s. There's the Blue Ridge mark on the bottom. Now these are priced at $3. Now we're getting somewhere as far as prices. And I understand paint tags are on discount today too. Another Lennox piece. Some of these old Lennox patterns are actually hard to match, but I don't think this cup and this saucer go together with the pattern. One thing about thrift stores, you kind of have to know what you're looking at because they don't always. Sometimes you can make money because of that, but you can also buy the wrong thing because of that. Now down here, this is a nice piece of stained fruit, but look at the condition. Too bad. Coffee maker is the only thing in that cart. They are bringing carts out pretty constantly. Here's a cute little piece. This might be Limoges. Yes, these are Haviland Limoges. Nice pattern. And $3 for both of them is an awfully good price. They are a matching pattern. They're just different shapes. Those would be worth buying just because they're cute and so inexpensive. We're going to move down here and see if we can find any other old ceramics. Here's a pretty piece down here. I suspect that this is possibly Bavarian or maybe also Limoges, even though the flowers are big. Big roses. This is $4. No mark at all. This is going to date to about 1900. So now we're starting to see where the bargains are. They apparently have put the collectibles all in one area like they're doing in a lot of their stores now. And they are pricing those higher, and then everything else that they miss ends up on these shelves, and this is where we're going to be looking for the bargains. There's always a ton more coming out, but there's also a lot that goes out really fast, so part of it is just timing it when you're here. This is Joni Dixie Dogwood. Some pieces are marked, this one isn't. It's only $3. That's certainly worth buying because there are definitely people who collect the Dixie Dogwood specifically. But underneath them are some interesting transferware pieces, and they almost look like toile work. $3.99 for a pair. These are Adams Rose Terrace from England. These are going to date to sometime around 1920s or 30s. Rather attractive pattern. These probably would sell because they are interesting and different, and they have high contrast, and they're decorative as well as something that somebody might use on a table. There are a lot of people who collect red transferware, and the contrast on this is desirable. We're going to go to the back wall here and see if we see anything interesting antique. The bucket brigade, this is a 1980s ice bucket, but it's priced at $20, which is what I would get on it if I was lucky. They just bring it out in bins and leave it in bins because it goes fast enough that they don't even have time to really put it out. Here's an old, funky, interesting 1950s pattern. It seems to actually be a Japanese-made piece from that time. We're going to take a look over here. I see an Italian glass bowl. And this is $8, and this is why we're here. It looks like it's a little gunky on the bottom. I want to make sure that that's not some sort of a thing in the glass that would be hard to remove, but if that'll clean up, it's got a nice green to blue color. For that price, we'll take it. Any bimorphic glass dish from Italy from that period is certainly worth that price. There's a little bit of residue on here, and I think that has to do from when they had glued some felt to it, but we can get that off. So this we're definitely going to put in our cart. Speaking of carts, I'm going to have to go get one. Well, let's see what else they have in terms of dinnerware, and then we'll move on to other categories. These are Homer Laughlin, but they have been decorated by a different company. So you see the Homer Laughlin label underneath, and then the overstamp says Lifetime China Gray Dawn. That means that they actually did the decoration on a Homer Laughlin blank. Some later colors of Fiesta, later being the generation starting in the 1980s when they had their revival. Bunch of silver plate. We do look for silver here because they sometimes miss silver. So we're going to take a look at the rest of this. Along with a cute little Vernon Kilns piece, Desert Bloom pattern, which was to look like English ceramics. Vernon Kilns did a lot of English looking styles in the 40s during the war because the English companies weren't able to produce like they had due to war restrictions. Now this old chrome cocktail shaker is the rather basic one, but people do buy these. But $24.99, again, I've got to say their prices are definitely up here from the last time I was here. Here's some ruby flash. Here's the King's Crown or thumbprint pattern. Now this is an old one. Look at the bottom of this. This is going to date to the early 1900s. You can see a lot of wear. And notice that these are rounder thumbprints than the 1970s era ruby flash, which has less wear, made by Indiana Glass and other companies. They have a whole bunch of this right now. This is Blenko. This is a Spode Copeland pattern, and some of this might be worth buying. I usually think of Blenko as not having any sort of color in it, but in this case, they think these go together. Pretty good deal. This is actually a handled sandwich tray, and then they have a vegetable bowl on top of it, so you're really getting two separate pieces you could sell separately for $10 each, because they don't really understand how these are supposed to work. So that's the first thing I've seen that I think is really viable, and I will seriously consider it because Spode is pretty good stuff. This piece is hand blown. It's not Blenko. I don't think it's rainbow. It may be Bischoff glass because it has lots of little seed bubbles in it, and Bischoff often did have those sort of impurities and imperfections. Some peach luster baking dishes, but they're a little bit worn. You've got to look for the finish on those. Nice old grinder here, but again, $40 is not that far off from what I would charge for these. I still look at serving pieces because serving pieces are the thing that are the most likely to sell to people who already have this Limoges pattern, for example. Bake and Shake Cafe Ware, only $2, and it's pink, which means it's half off, and it's Buffalo China, which means it's American made, and I think that we're going to get that. See, an abandoned cart right here. I think they just emptied this one, so we're going to take it. I grab that cart while they're not looking. And it's nice and loud and rattly and makes noise, so I guess the joke's on me. Again, they're bringing carts out all the time here, so it makes it exciting because you never know what might appear. This is a nice little leatherette here. Some sort of a book cover, 1960s. Just a little bit of a stain, though. Made in Greece, only $2. Darn, wish that was in just a little better shape. Now, it's possible you could oil it or do something where you would darken everything to match that, and that wouldn't show as much, but I'm not going to mess with it. If I was nice, I guess I'd unpack all of this for them, but I don't know where they're going to put these things, so. It's not old that fork and spoon on the bottom are certainly funky. This looks like Deruta from Italy, and it's only $13. Now, Deruta is still a place where they make things actually handmade, believe it or not, with that mark on the bottom. Wow. It's sewn in the Italian style. That was very well done by a home ceramicist. We've got loads of servingware, and this is where we're going to take just a little time to see if anything looks like it's not shiny like silver plate. And if we see that, then we'll pull it out and see if we might have some sterling on our hands. But so far, I think we're looking at silver plate. Corelware, basic pieces though. Here's a depression glass piece way under here, satin glass, but it looks like it's got some staining, so I'm not going to dig it out. And here, this is Fostoria American, a big tort plate. Again, with the holidays, these can sell, and Fostoria American does still sell. It's only $6. I think I've got one though. Desert Rose, the most popular dinnerware pattern ever made. That was a Franciscan pattern. They made 60 million pieces in the first 20 years. Another piece of Desert Rose, one thing you do learn at these places is you can look around because pieces of sets get spread out. So if you see one thing you like, you might find other pieces if you keep digging. Cookware. Now, I do keep my eye out for cast iron. I already saw one Lodge piece, but it was pretty new. I do like this metal here, but I see chips on the side, so we won't spend too much time with that. In the older dishware, the white tends to have less lead content, so if that's an issue to you, something to look for. Now, these are actually pretty good. If they have the railroad back stamp, then they're really good. This was a line that was made that was used on the Florida East Coast Railroad called Mystic, by Syracuse, China, copyrighted back in 1915, but you really want the ones with the railroad back stamp if you can find them, because even though it is the same pattern, a lot of the railroad collectors, if it doesn't say railroad, they get nervous. They're still a good deal at $3 each. If I didn't have a whole set in Florida right now, I would probably buy those. This is OP and Company, Syracuse, China as well. OP was Onondaga Pottery. That was the parent company's name. They've got some really nice serving pieces. These are going to date to about the teens. Again, they're competing with Limoges, so lots of small flowers. Only $8 on that one. Only $8 on this one. This is the sort of thing, especially this time of year, when you have people getting ready to set up for Thanksgiving, that if you're going to deal in dinnerware, now is the time, and these are the types of things to look for. Somebody was asking me just last night on our level 3 member chat about painting on glass. And here's a good example of where someone has taken some rather simple, basic, older pieces and painted on them, but you can feel the paint, and that means it's not really adhered right, which means you can't really use these or it will wear off. It's not the end of the world if you're not painting on something rare or valuable in and of its own right to restyle in that manner. It's just, if you do it like this, it's not food safe. Speaking of the level 3 member chat, if you are not a member, consider joining us because we do extra bonus content for members. We do early access to eBay listing videos. We have a monthly chat and we talk about interesting topics. A lot of them are supplied by the members. If you're interested in supporting the channel with a membership, we're very grateful. It does really help with the activities that we're doing all over the country. Find out more information by looking under the dash line of any video under the membership link. I do look in bag utensils because you might find Bakelite or some old painted wood handled pieces or interesting bar accessories. You just never know. I don't see anything that looks like danced teak or the kind of wood products that I would look for in terms of cutting boards and things. Appliances all look newer. Unsorted bins on the end caps. Some Georgian pattern here, but amber and the short glasses are not the easiest things to sell. This one looks like a large Pyrex. We don't usually see this size. It's not one of the primary colors, but it is 80s with that clear bottom. $7.99, but it seems a little worn. Looking for interesting scales, Tolder Pyrex, measuring cups. Those are all newer that I see. The Countess too. You can measure parcel posts. You can also stay on your diet. You know, I might need this because I have been using a bathroom scale to measure my boxes, and this would probably be a little bit more convenient. This would be nice if we could find the lid. This is something that was attempting to look like a Franciscan pattern, but this was actually Hollywood Craftsman made in California around the same time in the 1950s, $3.99 each. All right, now we're getting into some things that are a little more showy, things that perhaps people would want to have out on a shelf. Like this. Again, I think this is a newer piece that's trying to look like it's Italian. It's got a hermetic seal, so that tells us newer. And it's Italian, made in China. That means it's Chinese, not Italian. Why don't they just come up with their own designs? They have the capacity. They have thousands of years of culture. I don't understand why they have to rip off everybody else. $8 for this studio pottery piece. It's got kind of a nice contrast to it. It does have a signature I don't recognize. I don't think it's a terribly significant piece. The finish work isn't great on the handle. The fabulous fake flower department, and perhaps a vase or two, but I don't see anything that's really vintage. I see a box down here that's kind of interesting for design. It's heavy, but it's not particularly old. Now we're going to get into some more home decorative accents and things and see if we can find anything vintage. Aha, a Blenko twin-spout. This one is an okay color, 1980s, 90s color, and it's $10. And these sell for $60 new from Blenko, so we're taking that. Let's look down here and see what this little studio piece is. This looks Asian in design. It's similar to a Korean piece I sold recently, and there is an Asian mark on it. $9.99. Blue crackle, but this feels thin, like a 1980s crackle. It doesn't have the evidence of being hand blown. This is a knockoff of a Blenko design, but these are being done by Teleflora. If you see the big seams, these are Chinese. Across the aisle, well, here's something with a cute little transferware. Frankfurt in Germany. Not a high dollar item though. This almost looks like a mouse with the tail. That's cute. And this is where the unsorted bins come from. They just roll them out and turn them around. It's almost like being at the outlet. They do have an outlet near here, and I don't want to follow him because I was a little bit in his way, so I don't want to be the rude guy that then gets in his face. These are cute. These look like they're from the 70s. They're Relpo. They were 59 cents new. Now at Goodwill, they're $6. Is that cheap enough to buy? Probably one. This one has a goober on its nose. And I'm not sure that that's just dirt or if that's damaged, so we're going to check that out. It looks like a little bit of elbow grease. We'll take that off. And they're cute. They're lightweight, but they're whimsy and they're hand-painted. And we know they don't do that anymore. And there's certainly money to be made on those. And it's nice to have a pair, so we'll take them both. Let's see what's in the new bins that they just brought out. I see a little something in here. If we can get it out, it is a painted turtle. I was hoping it was tonal. It does appear to be Mexican. It is cute, and it is $3. So we'll put that aside as a maybe. Certificate of authenticity that it is hand-leafed. Oh yes, a foil print from the 1970s coming out of its frame. Made in Spain, Rose. Under here is this Le Creuset, perhaps. Oh, the handle is broken, darn. All right. Paper mache fruit. There is a crucifix that looks like it's on maple, probably 1960s or 70s. It's $6. I think I'm kind of set with crucify right now, though. Or would that be crucifixes? This is a rather dull 1970s or 80s Plano tackle box, but some tackle boxes are pretty good. An unusual piece of Desert Rose is this bell. If this is American production, it might be worth taking, and it is. The stylized FUSA was towards the end of their production. It's only $3. Somebody will buy that. Many interesting go-alongs were made with Desert Rose. Ah, yes, F. Romick. Interesting. I like Israeli-made pieces from that period of time because they were really trying to develop domestic industries. Pretty soon they gave up and just went to making weapons and that sort of thing, and so they started importing from all over the world. But the Israeli pieces that were made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s can be fun, particularly Lapid pottery. This one's $6. It's kind of flimsy though. Take a look and see what this is. It has a big mold seam, so I don't think it's a high quality piece of glass. Now this looks old, but they did a ton of these in the 80s and 90s, these little miniaturizations of tea sets. In the old days, those were for little girls. Those little girls ended up being 70-year-olds buying those back in the 1980s and 90s, and because of that, they were never played with, so they're not uncommon or particularly valuable. Pretty lightweight and flimsy on that. Some glass animals here. IKEA. Cute IKEA pieces. You know, some IKEA is definitely collectible, and some will be in the future. They've been around for a lot longer than people realize. Some figurines. A little bit of Mexican pottery, but it's chipped. Disneyland bill. $4 for all of that. That could be worth getting. Candles and candle holders and salt candles, which I do like. This looks like it might be acrylic. Let's see if it has some age. It is, and it's not old. Let's see what the nesting doll looks like. It's only $6. Unfortunately, that's it. The rest are missing, so we'll have to see if we see other pieces around and can reunite that set. This is a Japanese-made piece from the 1960s Royal Crown. Not the most attractive design. All right. Work this cart. Let's work this cart. Yes, indeed. Actually, it looks like they're consolidating because they might be getting ready to bring out another cart. I see that he's putting some stuff out. They roll these out, they let us dig a little, and then they put things out, and then they bring out more. So, kind of their version of the bins, and a lot mellower and easier to deal with than the outlet store. This is cute. Somebody made this. I wish it was Paden City, Virginia. But I have to say, it's kind of beguiling. This looks like 1970s cram. Let's see, were we still fighting in Vietnam? It's still divided into North and South, so the answer is yes. So this is a 1970s globe. Owls are certainly a thing. Let's see if these bookends are new resin. Yes, they are. Look at that flat black felt. That's a good clue of newer production. These are going away, so maybe something new will come in their place. Office supplies, I always scan them just quickly because once in a while you'll see some old advertising ruler or something out of a desk that looks interesting. Pet section, a lot of this is newer, which is understandable because used pet stuff, well, maybe not so hygienic. Or the Explorer metal thermos or metal lunchbox, but these little lunchboxes, of course, are the more recent version. Pokemon trading card game. I don't think that's particularly old. 2022. We see pieces like this in Seattle quite a bit. These are from Japan. There's a great store called Watamayan that does a lot of Japanese imports, and originally these would have been full of little gift items or foods or that sort of thing to be given as hostess gifts. Sometimes you will find interesting things that are collectible inside of these, depending on the age as well. These look like pretty generic items in here. But again, we always take a look a little deeper under the surface because of the way they pile things up. Toys and games in bags. And of course, certain characters can be money, so we do take a moment to scan this. Some things I would readily recognize, some things other resellers who are into some of these newer plastic toys and things from the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s might recognize more readily than me. Dolls are not that old. The action figures are not old enough. Toys, well, we have Britannia the bear, but that's a pretty common Beanie Baby, even though it is in the package. Most Beanie Babies are pretty common, and very few of them are worth money. You really have to look at things like what are they stuffed with, where were they made, Squishmallows. Yeah, not running into a lot of stuff now. Sock monkeys can be old. This one doesn't appear to be in purple, though. They rolled out another cart, so everyone's going crazy, of course. I see shoe lasts. I see this marble. Nope, that's resin. It's going to look like marble. Make sure there's no sterling in here. Those are made in India, more recent. Brass. $2.99. That's kind of got a nice edge to it. That might sell. I wonder if there's a mate to it. I think there is. This piece, again, made in India. And these are English barley-twist made of wood. And those are kind of a nice tall size, so we're going to take a look at those. These appear to be from India, but they actually feel fairly substantial. They're not loose at the bottom, which is important. They're probably 1950s India brass. They are $2.99. Is that each or for the pair? I think I would buy them in any event because they're nice and tall, and people seem to like taller candlesticks. Yeah, they're individually priced, but I don't see any dents or damage, and I'd rather have the pair. $6 is not a bad price to pay. And then these are barley-twist from England with a little brass cap. 1920s. Oh, they came from Watts Antiques. Wherever that was, that's an old tag. At one time they were $25. Today they are $2.99. And a nice antique look. These probably date to 1920 or so and are true antiques. So we'll take those as well. Look for candles this time of year because a lot of people use them in holiday decorating. I managed to pull a few things out during the frenzy, but now that everyone else has walked off, let's see what else is here. This might be another relic. I get the feeling they're looking for different things than I am. Now this is made in Taiwan, later 1980s, $2.99, but that gets into a more modern era than I would be interested in. Don't want to break things. This is a little bit of a crazy way to do this. Okay, this doesn't seem like it has a lot of aging, though it's a nice case glass piece with a 70s design. I think it was made at a later time because it doesn't have much wear. Certainly an interesting, different way that they're doing things here. You know, change is good. I guess that's how you stay in business in a location for 70 years. And some more carts that have come out. You could stay here all day and just watch them do this if you have the time. It has proven effective at bringing some nice merchandise to me. Here's some more of that fruit pattern that goes with that German tea set we saw at the very beginning. I like the reticulation here. Sometimes people will weave ribbons through those for decoration. They are playing some really interesting music for Halloween in the background now. Halloween's a big deal for these stores because so many people come here to buy things for costuming. We are in the houseware section. It's a big enough Goodwill that it has one. Tools, more tools. There is the possibility of older tools coming through here. I don't see any today though. Containers. Peaches Records and Tapes was a big deal here in Seattle for a long time, and they sold these crates that you could keep your stuff in. This would be great if we still had cassette decks, and it is from the 80s. If it was the record version, I'd buy it. Okay, here we are in Game Land. Paw Patrol. Nothing I see that looks terribly old. Make Your Own Dinosaur. Melissa and Doug. Not seeing a lot of old stuff in this section today. But I still always take a look because you just never know. All right, now we're getting into some bigger stuff. Look, you can teach your child to be Schroeder and play for Neiman Marcus in the lobby, I guess. This is priced at $40. Children's pianos do sell. I presume that that's 1990s or so in that color. Never saw that piece before. Another bin that's just come out with toys and some shoes. Nothing particularly interesting. And the plush section, well, I look for older plush, but older to me is usually 1960s or 70s. And I don't see that era in here, except with the possibility of Pooh. Although this looks like it's got a new tag. Old wooden tennis rackets with famous people like Billie Jean King on them can be money. I don't see any of those today. I know that people who know sports might see something that they would value in there that's more modern. 30% off paint tags today. I know I got at least one paint tag. Gourd art, quilting. I do like to look at art books and some cookbooks. I don't see anything terribly old though. Clocks, I'm not seeing anything older in them either. And when we look up here, the obelisk is newer. The electronic equipment seems mainly to be newer relative to what I find vintage people are looking for. Here's some, 78. These are like the size of a 45. This Old House by Betty Johnson. That might be worth looking up, actually. Fairly famous song. Dick Powell, Susan Slept Here. Tommy Dorsey and Jimmy Dorsey. This one actually has a picture, but it's ripped. Yeah, I haven't really run into a lot of this size in 78s. Paul Anka doesn't like to sleep alone. Well, got news for you. These albums all seem to be pretty worn. And I saw someone going through here who I know knows stuff. We do see familiar people at this place. So I'm not expecting that there's going to be anything great in here, although there's a great cover from the Roaring Twenties with the flapper outfit and a 60s spit curl. Strange combination. Always pays to do a review of your cart once in a while. I'm looking at this and see a hairline crack I didn't see before. So this kitty is going back out on the shelf. And I'm also looking at this piece and realizing that it's pretty new. You know, when you're first going through, especially when there's a bunch of people lunging for these things they're putting out, well, you grab and then you look and then take time and consider because all sales are final. $14.99 is not a bad price on the Carboy, but it took me a long time to sell the last one I had, and they're big, and this one's new. So for all those reasons, I'm going to leave that one here. More prints. A lot of this looks really new and in not very good condition. That's cute. The Jeans on the Clothing Line by Gene Hamilton, 1987. That's a little bit interesting looking, at least. Makes me want to spend at least a moment looking through and seeing if there's anything else that might have a little more age. Aw, you cute. Georgetown in Washington, D.C., I believe. Oh, those are broken. That is a shame because those were some interesting religious prints, but they are too as is. I do look for mirrors. This one here I can tell is more contemporary by the way it's made, but I bet it's a good design. And I found a good lamp the last time I was here, so we'll take a quick look through them. I don't see anything that's jumping out at me. And here's a cool looking thing. Let's see if this is old though. It doesn't look like it. Look at the new cord on it. Furniture department. I do find furniture sometimes in this Goodwill. I've bought a couple of things very inexpensively here actually in the past. I don't see anything that really looks interesting antique except the piece he's putting up there, an old Drexel piece from the 50s. Probably be mean to say, put that back on the cart and take it to my car. Plus, it's really not a style that I sell well and too big. Another new cart that's just come out. They're certainly bringing out the merchandise as fast as they can, and it's a good thing because it's going pretty fast. Party supplies, sewing supplies, more furniture, but I don't see anything really old here. Another cart that's just coming out. Not a very good quality ceramic piece there though. This is rock crystal by McKee. This is a nice pattern that used to be very collectible, and it's got a good design. It looks great with fluid in it. It's only $3 each for the footed pieces. And that's certainly something that could be worth buying. Corning Centura. You know, I have some pieces of this and I just have not had luck selling it, even though it's a great modern design from the 70s. Take a look quickly down the linen aisles here. They really do have a little of everything in this place. Just about any category you would see in a house sale and estate sale in a home is going to be represented here. I think these are fairly new. I like the fruit slices, but they're not old. There's another cart full. And the next one of these to come out. They are all over the place today. Not seeing anything that I need to dig for in this batch. Halloween. Lots of Halloween. I would love to find old Halloween. There are still a few days left. How do I look? Costumes. You could be a sheriff. Or a ballerina. Or the Disney Descendants. Here's one old piece of furniture, and it's a nice flat top truck. These are useful. This one is a little bit of wear. It's missing its straps. It's $50. It's an okay deal, not a great deal. And more Halloween galore. Hey, the Stanley Big Dumb Cup of Yore. These actually do sell. This one's in pretty good shape. And it is $8. That might be worth buying. First thing we do is look to make sure it's all there. That's the cup. That is the plastic cork, essentially, that screws in. And make sure that there's no damage on the inside or corrosion or nasty smells. Nope, it looks like it's pretty clean. And even though they were still making these in the 1980s, well, this is worth buying. I see recent sales in the $25 to $30 range. I've been here just long enough, it's worth one more sweep to see if they brought anything else out. I see some Corel down here that wasn't here before. Let's see what else there might be. This looks like an older bowl. Oh yes, probably 1920s German, maybe even a little earlier, $8. I'm going to set it in here so it doesn't get damaged. There's a Royal Worcester piece in rosemary. That's an old mark on early 1900s. The cream soup bowl is a pretty good one. Rag off cart only. I'm sure these are meaningful things to them in the back. It doesn't mean anything to me here, but maybe there's something that has meaning to one of our collectors under all this stuff. One of these spacers. These are useful in antique stores, but I've got plenty of risers right now. And it looks like there's some fresh stuff in here, but nothing that I see that's older. Another tackle box in orange this time. Here's another new one coming out. Like I said, you could spend your whole life here just watching them bring things around. Sorted. Well, they do a little pre-sorting, which is nice because we don't have to do quite as much. And the rest we've all seen, so we're going to head up to the front counter and we're going to pay for our loot. So we are getting the Stanley thermos, the brass candlesticks, the barley-twist, the Italian bowl, the great deal on the Blenko twin-spout, a desert rose bell, a very cool Relto guy, a steak-and-shake platter, and for usefulness sake, even though it's 1991 lengths, I don't care, I just need the weights. So here is something to weigh my heavier parcels. This is Studio Nova. It looks a little bit like Port Marion. This is made in Thailand though. This is from the 1990s. And then this is an old illustrative piece. It was $15 in a store, it's $6 here. This is cute and has a definite circa 1910 look to it, made in Bavaria. You know, if you did a certain type of porcelain or real farmhouse look, that could be very cute in there. All right, last row. Look what just came out. Italian glass fish. If this does not have damage, this could be a great last minute score, especially because it is $12.99. That could be worth $65 to $100 in the right place, so I'm taking it. One last thing to look at, just because it's in a box, I don't think it's a particularly great pattern, but it is vintage by Anchor Hawking with the grapes, and it is the snack set, so we'll just show you this for fun. Nice that it's in the original box. Only $8 from about 1980, but not a big seller. We're gonna head up to the front and just see if we see any accessories that we missed on the way in. Here's our purse section and backpacks. Well, purses, didn't see a lot of those. And jewelry, lots of jewelry. Mostly modern, hanging on cards. But this is the headquarters for this region, so they don't pull everything and sell it online. Look at the volume they're doing here and how many people they are and how huge this store is. They don't really need to do that to sell these things for good prices. And yes, Cards Against Humanity. A party game for horrible people. It's fun and terrible. Well, here we go. And thankfully they don't make us self-checkout because I got a lot of stuff that I need wrapped. Well, they may have done away with the distinctive collectibles section that was its own little boutique, but I'll tell you, there's always stuff to find in the world's biggest Goodwill, and we did. Minor problem here, I am not at the perimeter of the parking lot, but this has stopped all of a sudden, and I did pay for it, and I have my receipt. I don't think I'm parked too far there. I'm gonna have to go get the car and drive it up here for it, I guess. Or you can just lift it like so and push the back wheels. Well, speaking of great stories, this is one. We spent $70 minus that scale, and we'll sell these items for probably somewhere over triple that. So very happy with today's purchases. The biggest Goodwill in the world rarely disappoints. And it wasn't all recent vintage stuff either. We got some things that were true antiques, so that was a fun shopping trip. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.